Hey, everybody. We are back. It's Old Roommates. Today on the show, we will be revisiting Beetlejuice, starring Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder and a slew of others. So, it's showtime.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. This is Brian.
And this is Christina. Welcome.
Welcome. And here we are again with our essentially our new normal, staying at home as we all should. But we want to keep the Old Roommates train going.
Mm-hmm.
And so today is Beetlejuice.
Yes, and we are recording. So it's funny, we are recording in my studio at home. You should see this little setup. It's quite different than our Share studio.
You even have a fake wall.
I have a fake wall. I have a fake pop filter. You should just, I don't dare move. I'm afraid.
Take a picture and we can share it on social at some point.
All right, maybe. I'll have to have but it's funny, I was thinking today we don't have to have that disclaimer.
Oh yeah.
So it's
we're totally responsible. We're responsible for everything. Yeah.
Us. So Brian, we're talking about Beetlejuice.
Do you remember the year? 88? Did you look it up?
I didn't. I looked up a bunch of stuff too, and I forgot to look that up.
It's 88. Let me see.
That sounds about right. So 88.
88.
Good job. Starring obviously Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
And Winona Ryder.
Yeah. So I was in 88. I was 16, and I think what I remembered most was that the feeling of this when it was coming out, because it was so different than anything else from a popular perspective. And Tim Burton was, I guess, he'd only done Pee-wee's Big Adventure before this. So I think people were excited about what his next thing was going to be. Pee-wee's Big Adventure had become sort of it was a hit anyway, but it was became a cult classic and more. And so I think people were watching Tim Burton's next steps closely in this. And I remember the trailer being met with a lot of excitement, but It just looked so different than really, I think, anything people on our generation had probably seen before. Just a different way of storytelling, different kind of visual techniques, and just the look, like set design. It was such an original, and I think to the point where, not jumping too much, but when I revisited it, I almost, I think I was able to grasp more of the little bits of plot that I may have missed the first couple of times I saw this movie.
Sure.
Because it's so heavy on the visuals. But I remember really liking it.
So I had a different reaction. I liked it. Again, it was the first Tim Burton-ish kind of movie I had ever seen. Wasn't quite sure what to make of it. When I went in, now I think this was after Mr. Mom.
Oh, yeah.
Am I right?
Mr. Mom's 84, I think.
Because I remember knowing Michael Keaton as kind of a fun-loving, happy, silly guy. And I remember being a fan of his. And watching this movie, I expected it to be your typical comedy. And you know how it is with me, as I think everyone knows that's listening. I don't like to be surprised. Like if I'm going into something and I think it's a comedy, I want it to be a comedy. If I think it's a drama, I want it to be a drama. And this I think it was disappointing for me in that sense that it wasn't quite that rolling on the floor laughing kind of comedy. It definitely held my interest. I thought it was interesting, but I think just going into it with that sort of thinking of like, this isn't really that funny. It's a little scary and morbid and weird. That first viewing of it was not very positive for me. But I didn't hate it. I liked it.
I totally get it. Because it's like you're asked to, for a lot of believability. You're asked to suspend belief, but you're also brought into, I mean, two very different worlds, and at times three, because they walk out the door and there's the sandworms and
Sure.
everything else. So I think it's a lot to be like not knowing what to expect, and then it just keeps getting stranger, and actually even more worlds than that, because then you have the waiting room, and it just keeps going, and then there's the other world with the models. So it's a lot. You have the afterlife, you have the living, you have the model world, you have the real world, you have the
It
worm.
is a lot. It is a lot, and
So
there's
I
a lot of
understand.
characters. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people to get to know.
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying.
So yeah, and the other thing too is like nowadays, like we know who Tim Burton is. We know what to expect. If I see that there's a movie by Tim Burton, we know what to expect.
Yeah.
It's different. And back then I had no way of knowing what to expect. So that was another part of it, I think.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people probably felt that kind of. I feel like you were going to say something.
No.
Like, I feel like I think it's a fair, I understand why you and others would feel that way, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, there were things that were just happening faster. I think being younger, where I was like, I don't think I really understand what's going on here, but it's fun.
How old did you say you were?
16.
16.
14,
Yeah,
no,
I could see that. I was actually thinking
we're just
a
going
little younger. Because people, I think, younger have like more open minds too.
Yeah.
So
I think because when I was growing up, I really liked Star Wars and sci-fi, and I think I just became not interested in that world, those kind of things anymore. And I think so. I think the comedy of this, the acting, I have to be honest, I did think there were times where it was like I did think it was laugh out loud funny. There were those sort of bursts of genuine laughter.
I agree. But it was not leaving the theater, which I believe I did see it in the theater. Leaving the theater, I would not have probably classified it right away as a comedy.
Yeah.
There were just too many other aspects about it. It wasn't your typical comedy.
Yeah.
So I think that's what threw me off.
One of the biggest laughs then, and running ahead now, is, but I laughed so hard then, was when it's towards the end and Alec Baldwin's character has changed into this aging, thing. And he's like, and he goes to say, Lydia, Lydia, don't. And he goes, la, and his whole jaw cracks off.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, la.
I laugh now. I don't think I laughed then.
Funny.
It was a little more shocking. Like
it was shocking for sure.
Yeah, but I think I have a better sense of humor now than I did too.
I will say two more things about then. I remember loving Sylvia Sidney as the little. Is she? I guess what is she? A detective or sort of a police? What is she? She had the elderly one with the slit throat and the smoke came out of her throat.
She was like a counselor.
A counselor. So
she was like Juno, right?
Juno, yeah. So she she was kind of like the sort of the keeper of having to tell people how to help them acclimate, I guess. But she knew about Beetlejuice because he was her assistant, right? And I definitely didn't remember that.
That she fired.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I remembered her humor. I remembered her voice, and I just loved her so much.
She's so good. She's such she was great. She was great. And she was absolutely one of my favorites then and now.
Yeah. But I remember also being a little bit of Michael Keaton, went a long way even then. I was like, oh, he just, I feel like each scene with him is 10 seconds too long.
He was only in the movie for a total of 17 minutes.
Yes.
So even that was enough.
Yeah, much
90% of what he did was improvised.
I would have guessed that.
Yeah, it was kind of
some of it more successful than other parts. I did like that whole thing when he throws his voice though, when he's like, well, you're friends, blah blah blah. That is very funny. And Gina Davis. The one thing is this. So if we're going into now, the cast is just so game for this.
Oh my gosh, such a great cast.
Excited to be there.
And I wonder if it would have been as successful without such a strong cast too. I don't know if people would have been as into it.
one of the biggest casting things so after I watched it, I looked some fun facts up. Cannot pitch this to save my life. Angelica Houston was originally cast as Catherine O'Hara, that role.
And she was sick or something, right?
Yep, she got sick, and Catherine O'Hara didn't really want to do it. And then I guess she had to meet with Tim Burton, and they just
Yeah, he flew out to convince her, I think.
But you know what happened during the making of the movie? Catherine O'Hara met her husband.
I knew that. Yeah.
Welch. So cool? Yeah. Isn't that so funny?
That is like the coolest. Did you hear that he was not? That she, I think it was Tim Burton actually suggested he talk to her.
Oh, I didn't know that much about it.
And he was like, oh, I didn't know I was like allowed to talk to the actors. And so when he, because I think it was Tim Burton, because Tim had suggested it, he was like, oh, okay, great. And that's what started like the conversation. And obviously, like, I think they're still married, right?
I don't know, maybe. I didn't look that up. But how cool is that? It's just like,
oh my God, so cool.
Yeah. And then the biggest shocking casting thing. Do you know who Tim Burton wanted for the movie, for Beetlejuice, for the role?
Oh, I think there was a few that he wanted, but what was oh my God, what was it? I know. I gotta
He really wanted Sammy Davis Jr.
Sammy Davis, that's right. Oh my gosh, I actually wrote it down somewhere.
Yeah.
How?
I can see it though.
Isn't that crazy though?
It would be different. It would be like very like a little bit more like persuasive, but he would be. But he's a showman. Like I feel like it's like when I read that, I was like, I'm surprised, and yet it would have been. I think it would have been really interesting.
It would have been really interesting, and a lot of his look actually was created from Michael Keaton. So I have to wonder how the look would have been different with Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah. I
think it would have been a completely different look. I think he would have been awesome. That was crazy.
It's the perfect kind of role. It's very showy, but it also has to be, and maybe this is where the Michael Keaton role doesn't quite succeed, is that Sammy Davis Jr., I think he would have made it more persuasive. I think it would have been a little more persuasive with all the dealing that Beetlejuice had to do. Because Michael Keaton, there's never a sense where it's like, if you're in that situation in Beetlejuice, this like disgusting monster and like loud,
so sleazy.
What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, he's just kind of like obnoxious and
he's
loud.
Like gross.
He's probably the last person you would trust with your afterlife.
Right, and I could see Sammy Davis Jr. almost playing it like almost like a used car salesman.
Yeah, like smart,
right, like slick.
Yeah, like very slick. Yeah,
like definitely not someone to trust, but like smooth and almost kind of charming-ish.
Could have been super interesting. I mean,
I wish, yeah. I guess that's not happening.
At the same time, Michael Keaton is insane, and he does create a super unique character. And for everything he has to do, in fact, that so much of it was improv, it's pretty great. I still feel how I felt then about his performance, which is what I said. I don't think it's almost too much. I don't know if anyone would really trust him with much of anything. The other thing is, I just think his moments go on just a few seconds too long, where it's like it becomes grating.
Yeah. Truly. And I agree. But however, I do feel like, yes, I agree it was over the top. And I agree that people under normal circumstances would never have trusted him. And I think that kind of works because you don't want them to agree right away to help, for him to help.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you have to kind of really be desperate.
Yeah.
In order to do that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you wouldn't want to make it. That's actually a good point. Christina, once again.
Every once in a while.
Once again, you're just right. Yeah, I guess that's true, because you want to feel their desperation of that. So I will say, just a general note, I forgot so much of this movie.
Same.
If you, in a trivia competition, if you said, how did the Maitlands die in Beetlejuice? I would have said, I think it starts off with them being dead. Like, I forgot about the car. I remember
I forgot a lot about it too.
Yeah,
Um,
I couldn't remember how the dog played that role in the beginning, the little
oh,
dog that
right,
was,
yeah.
and but
Did
yeah,
you catch? Did you catch when they went to the hardware store that it was the Maitland's hardware store?
yeah, I didn't catch that the first time around.
No idea.
No.
So I will tell you. So there is a musical right now on Broadway. Right
Mm.
now it's closed
Well,
down,
not right
and
now. Yeah.
so we have tickets to Beetlejuice the musical right now that I'll probably not be able to use.
Oh.
Emily has been is sort of a bucket list item for Emily,
Your
and
daughter. Yeah.
for the Broadway show.
Yeah.
And so we have the soundtrack to it, and we've been watching, clips, and she watches clips all the time. So we know so much about this particular musical, and it's quite different. It's actually quite different from the movie. The Maitlands die differently. There's much more backstory from the Maitlands. There's much more
Oh.
backstory about Lydia and like her mother. Like there's a lot of that. There's a lot more Lydia. There's a lot more about her relationship with her mother and her desperation and her depression
Mhm.
and things like that in the musical. So when we decided we were going to do Beetlejuice, I was really excited about it because I knew that the musical had been different, but I couldn't really remember exactly how different. But I did not remember much about the movie at all, and I started watching it, and it was really interesting to see all the stuff that I did not remember.
Yeah.
And the way they died, they died differently on stage for
Yeah.
the musical. I had forgotten about that. I had forgotten about the fact that they had they had a miscarriage, and they were talking about children. In the
Mhm.
musical, it's much different. They don't want kids, and there's a big song about how they're
That's funny.
not ready. Like the song is basically about, okay, it's been 10 years. Our 10-year plan was we were going to do this, 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 and then have a baby. And now they're at the end of the 10 years, and they're both like, we're not ready.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's the beginning, like that's their song that they sing. And at the very end, they actually step through a floorboard that's been loose and they plummet to their death. And that's how they end up dying. And it actually makes a little more sense because that's why they are in the house. And
Okay.
that's why they can't leave the house because they died in the house or something. I don't know. Anyway,
Okay.
it was but it was really interesting to watch this movie with the musical kind of in my forefront.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool because some of the characters in the musical I thought they had just created for the musical, and I'm like, oh wait, they were in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. But I liked, yeah, I agree. I didn't remember the backstory of
Yeah.
them.
Well, and to the point about the essentially miscarriage, right? It's I couldn't quite tell if it was that they were trying and not succeeding, or not being able to get pregnant, or if she actually had a miscarriage, because
Did I just assume miscarriage?
I think because I forgot about that element of it. It was the woman that keeps pressuring them to sell the house, right? Because she's like, it should really be for a family,
Mm.
and her face was like kind of sunken, and I took that to be like, listen, they're actually trying and they can't get pregnant. I think
Which,
that,
yeah. Oh, then maybe I just read too much into it.
yeah,
I could have. But I
because
do
that's,
remember him saying we can try again on this vacation.
yep, that's right. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's up for interpretation.
I guess I have that
It's very
morbid.
sad. It's sad, but it's an
Yeah.
interesting layer. Which brings me to um, when I was back then, I felt like a stronger connection between Lydia and the Maitlands, like
Hmm.
Barbara and Adam. And this time around, I was like, I feel like they barely have scenes together. So, and that Lydia, Winona Ryder's character, like it's like they talk once or twice, and Gina Davis is like, Adam, I miss Lydia, or I want Lydia, I love Lydia, or whatever. And I'm like, based on what? Like,
Right.
I feel like the
Yeah.
interactions weren't super great to begin with.
It
Like,
feels like there was some deleted scenes.
yes. Or,
Didn't it?
yeah, conversations and, yeah, everything.
Yeah, it was sort of that weird. Yeah, like why do you feel so close? Because she can see you? I guess that's the only
Well,
reason.
And and also she's not quite a child either. I mean, she's definitely a teenager.
Yeah, they never
And
mention how old she is.
yeah.
But Winona Ryder was 17 when she did it.
Oh, really? Oh, she
Yeah.
looks younger. She looked younger than that. I mean, I figured she was like 14, 15.
I would guess about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say, so it said that she was 17 and they never really say what age the character was, but there's sort of an assumption that she was between like 13 and 17. I think 13 is too young. I would say 15.
Yeah. This was a kind of a negative for me, with just because they barely had enough meaningful scenes together for Barbara and Adam to be like, she is our child. Like, this will be a perfect transition from this girl we don't know to her being essentially our adopted child.
Right.
But that, I thought that was felt a little forced, a little tacked on to me.
I agree. And I wasn't sure if I felt that way.
Necessary. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I felt that way because they have a much stronger bond in the musical. Yeah. And I'm like, is it because I'm used to seeing this, like their songs and all this kind of stuff in the musical, or is it really just lacking in that connection? So I'm glad you said that, because I felt that too.
To that point, speaking of Winona Ryder, I really liked her in this. I don't know how you felt about her. I really liked her. I liked one of the scenes that I remembered very well was when she wrote, she's like, I am alone. I am utterly alone. And then she says, at one point, she's like, my whole life is a dark room.
She had some good lines.
And the truth is like, I think it's done well. And I don't know if this is intentional or not, but like, she's just like a grumpy teenager, whether she believes what she's saying or not. Like, this is her attitude, not necessarily who she is. With a lot of teenagers,
she was strange and unusual, right? And
she
that's
strange and
the
unusual.
reason why she could see the ghosts,
right? And I feel like anytime anyone says this is who I am, they're often not. Like, so if an adult said I'm strange and unusual, usually it's like, no, you think you are. Like, that's how you're tagging yourself. And I think that, so for me, the fact that she maybe wasn't super convincing as this goth girl was part of the point. Like, she was just, it was just her state of mind. Like, it was she
was mourning her mother. Like, and again, they don't really talk about that much.
Yeah.
But in the musical, they really talk about it a lot, about how she's mourning her mother. In fact, the opening scene is the funeral of her mother.
Oh, wow.
And so they talk about it a lot, and I think that that's sort of what I want. That's kind of what I picked up on this second time around, with her all dressed in black and just being sad, and it's almost like she's turning the mourning into goth.
Yeah. I completely forgot about all the dad wanted to accomplish was peace and quiet. I forgot about that. And I think because he's from Ferris Bueller, and I think I had maybe some PTSD of like that he's like sort of weirdly evil in some ways.
Totally.
So I kept getting, I remember when I watched it then, it was like, I feel like he has some like evil undercurrent, but now I'm able to appreciate his performance a little more because he doesn't, I'm not off the Ferris Bueller. I am off the Ferris Bueller attachment to that, where I actually liked his performance better this time around. And of course, I didn't write down his name, and I should probably just know it.
Oh, I forget it too.
I agree. Jeffrey, is it Jeffrey Jones?
Oh, Jeffrey something, yes.
Jeffrey Jones? I don't know.
That makes sense. I think I didn't write it down. I wrote everybody else's down, but I already knew everybody else. This is stupid. No, I agree. I remembered him and Delia's characters as being like so evil. And so
and they're not.
And Delia is not evil. She just wants a home. And she wasn't like
she wants it to be her. She wants it to feel like her home.
Right. She's compromising. She's actually being very compromising.
That's right.
And and he's like, it was funny, like watching them now. I'm like, they're actually not bad people. They're just, I mean, you kind of relate to them. You're like, yeah, they just gave this house and they want it to be their house, and he wants a little bit of quiet. And what's funny is too, I remember Delia as being very glamorous, and she really wasn't that glamorous. But my memory of her was just like this really glamorous kind of rich woman, and she wasn't. She was just very eccentric, like not even very eccentric.
Right, and she's also tightly wound because she's not even sure if this move was a good idea, but she compromised, and she wants it to feel like a city in the country. And so, yeah, you kind of understand them a lot more. They're not evil, and maybe it's because...
Is it because we're middle-aged?
I think so. I think it's because you know how set in your ways you can be at a certain age and things you want for your life. But I also think pop culture maybe has even taught us with so many sort of like reality shows like The Real Housewives and things like that, where it's like, wow, she's pretty agreeable. Like she you know, she wants to create art and she wants things to look a certain way. These are things that everyone kind of can agree with or wants to do, and she's far from the evil or antagonist that I remembered way back then.
Right.
It's
honestly,
interesting.
she's dealing with Lydia the best way she can.
Lydia's and doesn't even like her. I mean, and like she doesn't. I mean, Winona, you know, Lydia doesn't like her, so she's like, doesn't even know what else to do. She's trying to be some sort of
angst.
I will say one thing that didn't. If we're gonna go negative for a minute, that didn't track for me is like I kept thinking like, all right, I'm going to this dinner party. This really weird thing happened. We're all dancing and singing. Then it stops, and we're sitting in the living room, and they're like, "Tell the ghosts to come down here." And then she tries, and she says they don't want to come downstairs. I would be like, "Oh my God, let's go up there." But at every turn, they're like, well, we're leaving. I'm like, that's not real. Like, I feel like that's not a real reaction. I feel like I'd either wait or I would go upstairs with whoever is brave enough to go upstairs.
Right. I felt that scene was a bit long. Like, I didn't feel like, I agree. I feel like there was just too much time in between, like them being possessed. Like, if you're possessed, I don't think you're going to end up in the next room just talking about it next. I think it's going to be a little bit more immediate.
Yeah.
And that's, I hate to keep going back to the musical, but that's how it actually differs a little bit there too, which is basically a big song. And, you know, it's, you know, they're like, oh, we're going to be rich, blah, 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 you know, all this kind of stuff. But it was a little bit more fluid in their reactions. So I felt like that scene was a bit like just unrealistic, and I mean, not that any of this is realistic, but,
right,
but not so true to the characters.
Well, I think my feeling with the going up the stairs, if they had done that, because the energy of this movie is so like yeah. I mean, it's very pro. It's like, you know, the banister turns into a crazy snake. There's all these things, and they're not and they're afraid, but they're like staying put and they want more. So I felt like it would make sense for them to all go upstairs and confront the ghost versus the guests leaving in disgust. Like, oh, it's like, well,
right, because the reason why they're excited is because they know they're going to make some money off of this. So for them to just give that up seems weird.
Yeah.
It's out of character.
Like Dick Cavett was one of the guests. Like that sequence where they're like, you know, almost like they're disappointed, and it's like, well, they're not. You do remember that 5 minutes ago when you were possessed by a ghost, right? I don't know. It just it was 5 minutes ago. This is very nitpicky, but I just feel like some of the characters were like even within the vibe and the tone of this movie, it didn't quite translate. I was like, I don't understand that move. And
why wouldn't they be able to stay during that whole other possession stuff when she finally calls him? Do you know what I mean? Like, why can't, it wasn't a different day. It was still the same night. It was still, everything was happening in the same night, right? Or am I remembering this incorrectly? So they get possessed.
Yeah, and they do the dance around the table.
Ghosts, and then they call Beetlejuice back, and all the craziness happens. That's all the same.
They'd already left, right?
The guests had already left, but what I'm saying is, why wouldn't they have just stayed? Like, what's the point?
Oh, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, they should have just stayed. Yeah. For sure. And What else? I still love Sylvia Sidney. I love that waiting room.
That waiting room made me laugh then, made me laugh now.
I could have
It's so well done.
I could have spent another 20 minutes in that waiting room.
I want to see what else is there. Truly, I wanted to see more of the characters. Like, who else is there? Who died?
Yeah.
How did they die? Like, so fun. Something made me laugh. I wrote down the Zagnut, and I forget what that's all about. I think Beetlejuice was like
eating a candy bar, right?
Yeah. And it made me laugh.
Oh, because he there's the fly. He wants to eat the fly, and he sticks the Zagnut bar out of the grass.
It made me laugh that they were using Zagnut as a candy bar.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
I felt weirdly bad even back then for the fly. When it's like, help me. That was Beetlejuice saying help me, right? Yes.
I think it was Beetlejuice saying.
Strange. I don't know, but I was like, oh.
How scary was it though, hopping like out of the house and like in that whole sand dune thing? That was scary then, and it was actually scary now, as cheesy as it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think now, just because where we are with special effects, it's a little dated. And
well, you know what's so interesting about that? You might have read this too. So they had $1 million in their budget for the visual effects, and because of that, Tim Burton was like, you know what? I'm going to make it as B-list, like tacky as I can. Mm-hmm. And I think all that cheesiness was intended to look cheesy and bad.
Okay.
And I remembered it looking cheesy and bad back then, which meant looking at it this time around, I didn't feel like, oh, it's so old and cheesy, because I remembered it looking that way. And it was all like intended.
I remember looking at it now, being like, remembering that I thought it was pretty cool, because it is very like stop motion-y, like, you know, the worms and all of that, and the green screen, you can see the outline of people on the green, you know, so, but I remember, I mean, I was fine with it. I like, you know, but it was, I see what you're saying. It makes sense.
Yeah, it made me feel better to know that it was sort of intentional too, and I was looking it up. I'm like, oh, good.
I'm trying to think of what else.
Well,
the wedding was exciting. I thought because to your point, I know you weren't a fan then, that the tone sort of changed into this like like very intense like timing thing with the wedding. I couldn't, and I saw this very recently, and I still can't remember why he wanted to marry Lydia.
So it's not very clear in the movie, because I was looking for an explanation and I could never understand it either.
Yeah.
In the musical, so it's a little different in the musical. So only a human is able to bring back Beetlejuice. So the Maitlands weren't able to bring him back at all. So that's why he was trying to befriend Lydia. Lydia wanted to be part of that world because she missed her mother. It was very well thought out, this musical. I feel like the storyline was really quite good. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And so Lydia was the only one that was able to bring back Beetlejuice. So when they got married, I think that helped him to stay on Earth. Like I'm pretty sure that that's what that was all about. Like if he married a human, then he could stay on Earth. And she agreed to it in the musical because it gave her access to the underworld.
Got it.
It was kind of like a give and take thing. Like she had to agree to it.
Yeah.
It's actually a song called Creepy Old Man or something like that. Creepy Old Guy. It's funny.
Oh, yeah.
But it was much more, it was better explained in the musical. Because I always wondered that too. I'm like, why is she marrying him?
Yeah, I kept thinking like, I must have missed something.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else.
Do you want to take a small break?
Yes. Yeah, because I can review my notes. I have a couple of funny fun facts.
Yeah, I need to review my notes too. And yeah, so let's just take a quick break. All right.
Pressing pause.
We'll be right back. And we're back.
We're back talking about Beetlejuice.
From our Zoom studios.
In our Zoom studios, old roommates. I think I do have a general question because I was reviewing my notes and I'm like, huh, did you like this more, about the same, or less than before? Because you weren't a fan before.
No, I liked it a lot more now, actually. I liked it a lot more, and I'm not sure if it's because I have more storyline based on the musical. Um, I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm happy that I saw. Not that I did not see the musical. Let's make that clear. I have not seen the musical, but I know enough about it through their songs,
Hmm.
about the storyline changes. And so I do like it more, regardless of whether it's because I know more about the storylines or not. But I also um, appreciated the tone more, like that sort of black humor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The sarcastic, um, the dark humor, if you will. Um, I appreciated that tone more now. Especially, I mean, even it could just be because I know what to expect now.
Hmm. Yes, the humor thing for sure. I think because one thing about that is I had missed back then that the bordello, or the strip joint, or
Hmm.
whatever, I guess it's more of a sex club,
Yeah.
that was created to distract him.
Right.
And I missed that part when I was younger. I don't, I and
Yeah,
so,
she does say something about that, but
yeah,
yeah,
so that's kind of like this
subtle.
adult dark, well, not dark humor, but it's like this adult thing that, like, I mean, 16, I knew what sex was, but like
Hmm.
I was like, oh, I'm like, Beetlejuice has just found this sex club or this strip joint, whatever. And as an adult, it's like, oh, they set him up to like buy time. Miss that totally.
I will say I
Sometimes.
totally still didn't appreciate any of that, like raunch. Like it was just too much raunch on him.
Well, if we're talking about in the now too, it's like him grabbing Gina Davis,
Hmm.
kissing her, like
Just gross.
it's yeah, it's pretty gross. And also just
Bit
the idea
much.
of marrying like a young girl, and I mean, but for what this movie is, I would never expect class from
Hmm.
Beetlejuice. I would never expect like a mature sensibility with this Beetlejuice monster.
Hmm.
So, but
One of the
yeah, I'll
things
be honest, I liked it just about the same, or maybe a little less.
oh, interesting.
Less of the dots. Like, I think even as an adult, some of the dots didn't connect for me. I think the big thing for me was this sort of tacked on Lydia should be our daughter vibe. And to the earlier point, that the parents aren't awful. Like Lydia's parents,
Right,
his stepmom, like at the end of the day, the dad just wants peace and quiet.
right.
And, so in a weird way, my middle-aged lens is maybe siding with different sides of this movie that wasn't
Mhm.
expected. But I think,
I
and I
think
didn't,
that's kind of why I liked it a little bit more too, for me, because I could see more character development with all the other characters.
yeah,
You know,
I
I like
think you have an advantage with with your interest in the musical and your
100%.
knowledge of the musical, because it fills in some of those blanks. For
Hmm.
me, it didn't, and like I didn't have that, so it's like, is it fun? Yes. Is it sensory overload? Yes. Can I appreciate the filmmaking, appreciate the acting? Yes. But
Yeah.
I think as a complete story, it felt a little unsatisfying.
I could
A little bit
absolutely see that.
as a
It's
grown
kind
up.
of the feeling I had when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Just not understanding a lot of that stuff. I will
I
say I
will.
just have one more thing to say
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah, yeah. Oh,
that I
yeah.
have on my second page of notes, or my third page of notes, where did you notice when Lydia was writing the suicide note? Did that remind you at all of when
Heather's.
she was Heather's? Yeah, when she was writing so frantically. Da, 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 da. It just made me laugh. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it's
The yes, and really quick brings me to some other casting information.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to take a wild guess who turned down the role of Lydia?
Well, I know Alyssa Milano was one of the choices.
Oh my God, I didn't see that in the list.
She was one of the main choices. I don't know if she ever. I don't think she had the opportunity to turn it down. I think,
She was super young.
yeah, yeah.
So I thought
But
you were gonna guess
Jennifer Connelly.
exactly.
Um, who else? Not Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yes. Oh,
Really?
Christina. It's the same people
It's the
over and
whole
over.
group.
Justine Bateman
She did that
rejected
pretty
it.
good.
She turned it down. Molly Ringwald turned it down. Jennifer Connelly turned it down. And Brooke Shields turned it down.
Interesting.
Juliette Lewis auditioned.
She would have been great.
She didn't, but obviously didn't get it. But she auditioned for it. She wanted it. And Winona Ryder. Tim Burton had seen Lucas, the Corey Haim movie, and he really liked her because she's very sort of like a loner kind of character in Lucas. Another one, the working title for this, because the studio, do you know this already? The studio hated Beetlejuice. So Tim Burton jokingly said, well, how about, do you want to say it?
It was like something about sheets, right?
Scared sheetless.
Scared sheetless, right.
And the studio went, yeah, that's great. And he's like, I was kidding. But for a while, they were going to release it with Scared Sheetless. And
you know where Beetlejuice came from, the name?
Beetlejuice came from a constellation, a star, yeah. And, or a star, I guess. And it won the Oscar for makeup. And I think that's kind of everything.
I think so.
It's certainly an original film, and I appreciate all the originality. I love Catherine O'Hara's line. She has an amazing moment where she is going crazy, and she's like, I will, oh God, I forget the first part, but she's like, I will, she doesn't say shoot herself. She says, she's like, I will, no, she says, I will lose my mind. I will go insane and take you with me. What does she say? What's that?
Oh
line?
yeah, I forget the line too, but it's
that
so
little
good.
moment is.
She's great. She's great in everything she does.
She's amazing.
I love her.
She's 0 to 60 in 5 seconds.
And what was I just gonna say? Oh,
sorry.
Oh, the dining scene with Deo.
Yeah.
I would recommend the movie just for people to see that scene. I just thought that scene was like so funny.
Super fun. And you know that guy, Glenn, the actor who played Otto, he passed away some years ago. And at his funeral, he requested that the last song be, as people are leaving his funeral, that song. Deo. Yeah, that's very sweet. It's like touching.
It is touching. But no, I thought it was a good movie, and I would recommend it for that scene, and also just for the originality, and just it's just so different. And it has good acting.
Yeah, it's only, you know what my problem is, it's only 95 minutes. It could have been longer to give certain things a little more layeredness to it. Yes. To understand certain motivations and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe make us care a little bit more about the Maitlands. It was so fast. Yeah. Before we went into the other world there. But yeah, I mean, it's good. It's about the same for me. I liked it, but if I'm being really hard on myself or hard on this movie, I liked it a little bit less this time around. But still, it's super original, very entertaining. I think it could have been more.
Right.
I do have a question, if you're ready.
Sure, I have a question too, but I have to find mine. Okay.
This is a true match game.
Okay. You know what? We can write it down and show up.
Oh my God, we can.
Right?
Super fun. Super fun.
Hold on, I gotta find a blank piece of paper. Everything is written. Do I have a blank? Oh, you know what? I do. Hold on. I can find it.
Thank you for waiting, viewers, while we get.
Okay, sorry, I had to find a piece of paper.
Oh shoot! I just closed my book. Okay, let me know when you're ready.
I am ready.
Beetlejuice is so gross.
How gross is he?
Thank you for asking. For breakfast every morning, he has a big helping of bacon and blank. bam, bam. Bing. I'm in, waiting for you.
All right, this is dumb, and I don't think I'm going to match.
It's okay. Mine's pretty dumb too. The question is dumb.
I wonder if you're going to be able to see it. You know what? I should probably do it in, hold on, I'm going to put it in marker. Hold on.
Okay. I know I wrote mine like 3 times over. I think you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to see it.
Yeah. Can you hear the squeaky? All right.
I can. Okay.
Ding.
Cool. All right. Beetlejuice is so gross.
How gross is he?
Thank you. For breakfast every morning, he has a big serving of bacon and blank.
Bacon and legs.
Oh, Christina, I was actually going to put that just for the rhyming.
Well, that's the only thing I was doing.
I did.
Oh my gosh, look! We did this. I can't believe we matched on that stupid answer. Fantastic. Bacon and legs. I almost wrote spider legs, but then that would have been.
Oh, that's so good. Bacon and legs.
I figured I'd go straight with the legs. That's so good.
That's got to be the name of a strip joint diner somewhere in America.
Bacon and legs.
It has to be. It has to
Is there a joint / diner in the world?
Could it be?
I don't know. All right, so I have a question for you, Brian.
Okay.
And so it's, I got to flush, of course, I have sort of a question, but so my question to you, Brian, is if you, all right, so thinking about the characters and becoming one of those characters, if you had to become one of the characters in Beetlejuice, okay, which do you think would be the worst character to be? So in other words, like
as an actor playing.
No, as in like that actual character. And I have multiple choice. I only have 3 on multiple choice, but feel free to chime in a different one if you want.
Okay.
Who do you think would be the worst? Do you know what I mean? Not that.
I do.
Yeah. Who for you to be?
Yeah.
Worst character to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which character do I think has the toughest plight?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
Yes. Very nice. Would it be Beetlejuice, Juno, or Lydia? Do you want me to write down what I think you'll say? You can see if we match.
Yeah, let's write it down.
Hear my thing?
Yeah.
And I think I'm writing this for you, not for me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sometimes I write for me. Truth be told.
Yeah, this is tough between 2 of the characters. So should I say where my mind was? So Beetlejuice is a no for sure. But Juno is pretty tough because her whole job is based on breaking this awful news to people and coaching them through this existence over and over and over again. At the same time, Lydia is juggling 2 sets of parents, essentially grieving her mom and dealing with like this otherworldliness and having to go to school.
And being a teenager.
Wow. And I imagine having 4 parents. I mean, listen, I came from a broken, divorced family situation. 2 parents is plenty. So here we go. My choice is Lydia.
That's a pretty good choice. It's not what I chose for you.
Okay.
I thought you would choose Beetlejuice.
Oh, interesting. That was the first one.
First one out.
Oh,
but my reasoning was because he's so gross and like kind of hopeless. Like there's nowhere for him to go. I think Juno, at least she has like a purpose in life, that she has a job. She has a reason to get up in the morning. And Lydia, she's young. She has a whole life ahead of her. And she has, like, it's tough now, but she has people who love her. And, I mean, it stinks being a teenager and she's in a bad spot right now, but she does have a lot of people that love her and all that. Whereas Beetlejuice is sort of hopeless. Like there's nothing there for him at all. He wakes up and like, it's like Groundhog Day. So that's the reasoning behind
And yet, so Christina, now you even opened up a whole nother thing, because I don't get the sense of tragedy with Beetlejuice that you got. I
that.
got that he was like the master of his domain, but he wanted more. Like, I didn't see, and
Well,
that's
he wants more, but he can't get more.
well, sure, but like, I never got the sense that he was like sad, or I
Mhm.
get the sense that he was like just wanting to, mess with people.
True.
That I got the sense he just wanted to mess with people, and he wanted opportunities to ruin people's lives. I didn't get the tragedy of his character, and you clearly did. I guess you have a bigger
Huh,
heart than me.
I guess. Well, I don't
Uh,
think that's good news to anybody.
but I think, but yeah, and that's Beetlejuice, I guess.
Oh, I think it is. Hold on, let me cue up the new music.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm still learning this music stuff.
So everybody, whoever's watching it or listening, thanks again, and stay home, stay safe, stay well, and watch more movies.
Yeah, and I will say there are a lot of our movies that we've revisited on the streaming channels of, Netflix, and a lot on Amazon Prime mostly, but
Yeah.
also Vudu and Hulu. So,
Yeah, and also,
this might be a good chance to revisit some of those movies yourself and then kind of listen to some of the old episodes and see if you agree with us.
and also in iTunes too. I mean, if you can swing it, I think a lot of these movies you can rent for like $3,
Mhm.
and you can have it for like I think 48 hours. So it's like if you are that interested in revisiting some of the things we're talking about, it's a good opportunity to check them out. But thank you so much for listening and
Yes.
watching.
Stay well, everyone.
Till next time.